What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. In this episode, I am previewing the 2025-2026 NBA season, looking a little bit back on last season, reviewing, making predictions on champions, awards, standings, all kinds of stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it with the Southeast Division starting in the Eastern Conference. Last year's standings, the worst division in the NBA by far, I think. Magic won the division. And again, keep in mind when I do this, I like the divisions because it breaks it up in a simple way. But just because you win your division does not mean you make the playoffs. The NBA did away with that, probably for the good. It is not like every other sport where winning your division clinches you a playoff spot. So keep that in mind when we're doing these divisions. It's a good way to break up all the conferences so it's not 15 teams, in my opinion. It's just groups of 5. And as you can see in the Southeast Division, last year the Magic won it with a 41-41 record. Not very great. They still made the playoffs. They're very much a team that has struggled offensively, but they made a big trade this offseason, giving off a boatload of first-round picks, probably overpaying in my eyes for Desmond Bane to help shut up the offense, have some better three-point shooting. Two things that they struggled with, arguably the two biggest things they struggled with last season, adding Desmond Bane to that young core. Hawks finished 40-42. Heat with a rough year at 35-47. And then the Hornets and Wizards, two teams that were trying to be in the lottery, and they succeeded. They did not get a top 3 pick. Neither one of them. That hurts, but they both still got top 5 picks. In 25-26, how do I see this division shaking out? I think the Magic win it again. I think Desmond Bane gives them some more three-point shooting. I think they'll get more growth from some of the young players. And as you get growth from your young players, I think it makes your team better. And I think the Mavericks have a legitimate chance to have a pretty solid, or the Magic have a pretty reasonable expectation where they can get into this mid to high 40s range. I think the Magic improve this year. Is it by 7 games? Maybe not. Maybe it's only by 4 or 5. But I still think the Magic improve where they're not fighting in the play-in. Give me the Magic to win this division comfortably. Again, not that winning your division clinches you a playoff spot. Give me the Hawks to do what they normally do and be right around 500. They got some important young players playing really well last year. They got another, in my eyes, another good pick this year. I think that their young players are going to continue to develop. I think that they have a pretty solid team, just not quite to the level of the top teams in the NBA. And they are still led by a absolute offensive superstar, somebody that's going to score a lot of points, has a really good offensive rating, good at playmaking, just sucks defensively in Trae Young. But they have some defensive pieces to make up for it. And I think the Hawks are kind of what they are normally this year at hovering around 500, maybe making a playoff run. I think the Heat finished around where they did last year. I think they don't have Jimmy Butler anymore. They didn't have him after the trade deadline. They had some interesting pieces come in. I still think they lack a star. I think they have some really good players. I don't think they have great players. I don't think they have a lot of all-star players, just good players. Some intriguing young guys as well. And I think Eric Spoelstra is a fantastic coach. But I think this is kind of a reset year for the Heat. And I don't see them being competitive in the weaker Eastern Conference. Hornets, I think, take a step up. I like, they have some good guard and wing depth. They have some bigs down low. I think for the Hornets, just coalescing as a young team, guys continue to take steps forward as youngsters. Can LaMelo Ball stay healthy for them? Because he hasn't really been able to most of his career. A lot of the Hornets taking a step forward will be banking on that. I think they won a couple more games, but I still think that they're heading towards the front end of the lottery. And the Wizards might be the worst team in the NBA this year. They're certainly going to be in contention for it. Yes, they have young pieces, but I don't think they're ready to compete, and I don't think they're ready to start taking a step forward. I still think that they are in the early version of a rebuild. Still need to try and get that franchise player, even though they have been picking near the top the last 2 or 3 years. Moving on in the Eastern Conference to the Atlantic Division. Last year had 2 really good teams and then wasn't very good at the bottom. As you can see, the Celtics winning 61 games and the Knicks winning 51 games. And then after that, it kind of dropped off. This year, I think the Knicks have gotten better. I think, I'll be interested to see how they are with a new coach. I think their bench will be a little bit better. I think less of the onus will be on Jalen Brunson to do everything. I think they'll be they're hoping at least to be a little bit more healthy. I think that'll help their record. And I think just another year of coalescing a lot of big names will be helpful for the Knicks. And with some of the injuries in the Eastern Conference, I think this conference could be wide open. Why not the Knicks? The 76ers have in second, and guys, they could be the same team they were last year and not win a lot of games, get a really good draft pick. But Embiid's supposed to be healthy. It really, for the 76ers, I think it all comes down to health, right? Embiid is an MVP level talent when he's playing. That will help the Sixers a lot. Jarrett McCain was on a hot streak, and I know he's not starting the year, but he missed most of the year last year after a great start to his rookie year. He's going to miss the beginning of this year. Can Paul George be healthy? It may not be third in MVP voting Paul George, but I still think it's a solid Paul George that can help teams win games. You have the number 3 overall pick in VJ Edgecombe, who I think could be an absolute star in this league for a variety of reasons. The 76ers team still has a lot of great pieces, and I think if they can just get decent health, they'll be a good team. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they can push 50 wins if they stay healthy as a team. Like have good health, and these young guys play the way they're supposed to, continue to develop. But I also think they could finish with 30 wins with all of these injuries and relying on the young guys too much too early. So I'm going to go for the middle here, maybe a little bit closer to the higher end, and give the Sixers 44 wins this year, right above right around the play and right above the play in that kind of area. Celtics, I think they have more talent on their roster than 42 and 40. But obviously, their best player, Jason Tatum, is out probably the most of the season. Historically, it would be definitely the whole season, but you're already starting to see rumors that maybe he can return sooner than people think. He's still going to be out probably the regular season, best case scenario. They still have some players in Boston, but I'm really, really worried they lost a lot of bigs, and I don't think they have a good big on the roster, maybe just some average glue role player guys. So I'm very worried about that team down low. They even besides Tatum, they have some injuries and some banged up guys coming into the season. I think there's enough talent to still finish okay and make a run at the play-in. And then who knows? Jason Tatum comes back, and this is a team nobody wants to play. The Raptors, I think, are an interesting team. They made some interesting decisions at the trade deadline last year. They have Brendan Ingram. Scotty Barnes is your franchise player. I'm very interested. I think this Raptors team has good talent, more talent than people may realize they have all over the court. And I think it's going to be good enough to keep them in the play. And I don't think they're going to be elite this year. But I think that they have enough talent on the roster to be competitive and at least score some points. And then the Nets, I think, are trying to be bad this year. I'll be very, very interested. I think that they have. I'm very interested to see how Michael Porter Jr. with potentially being the number one option on offense works out. I think Cam Thomas will be able to score. Cam Thomas has shown flashes since he's drafted, really, and he just doesn't always have the playing time. I think the Nets are going to be bad. I think they're going to give up a lot of points, but I think every once in a while they're going to have a game offensively where everything gets clicking and they score a whole bunch of points and they'll get some wins. But I think the Nets are safe to assume at the front of the lottery. The Central Division, the last division in the Eastern Conference, last year was was the best division in the Eastern Conference. The Cavs finishing with the best record in the Eastern Conference, second best record in the NBA at 64-18. Pretty good, darn good year, all around team before losing in the playoffs. Pacers making it all the way to the NBA Finals at 50-32, but that team looks a lot different this year. Bucks made the big Miles Turner signing to go along with Giannis Antetokounmpo, but they lost a lot of other big names and very, very thin at guard. Can they still make the most of Giannis's prime years? Pistons may be one of the biggest surprise teams in the NBA last year. 44 wins, get the 6th seed, and give the Knicks everything they can handle in the first round before going out. And then the Bulls, as always, around 500, maybe a couple games less than 500, hanging around the play-in, not really good enough to get a top 5 pick, a top 5 talent, but not quite good enough to do anything significant in the playoffs. And for the Cavs, I think they take a couple steps back this year, but not even really because of talent. I just think it's hard to win 60 games in back-to-back seasons. They have a lot of the same makeup, but I think they might be resting guys. you know, you won 64 games last year, but you didn't do much in the playoffs, in my opinion. And for that reason, I think maybe that they load management is so popular in the NBA. I think the Cavs could do some of that. I'm worried about their perimeter defense. Obviously, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are incredible talents defensively down low, but I'm a little bit worried. Guys like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, are they really locking guys down? And when they're on the floor a lot together because they're such good offensive players, how does that work defensively? I still think the Cavs are going to be just fine, be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the Eastern Conference. I still think that they have more depth than people realize. And give me the Cavs to win this division somewhat easily and fight for a top 3 seed. Pistons, I think I was super low on them coming into the year last year. I admit it, I was wrong. Then I saw them play. They can beat you in so many different ways. They have all of those years picking in the lottery and trading for young guys has really worked out for them. I think they're going to be really the when you have first, second, third-year players, I think they're only going to continue to get better. I think this Pistons team is going to continue to coalesce, and I think they get even better this year. And in a year where the Celtics have an injury and a team I'm about to talk about in this division have an injury, and they've been two of the best teams in this conference, the Pistons could use that opening to make a run, and I think they do. I think the Pistons are one of the more surprising teams. Maybe they're not a surprise team anymore, but finished with a good record this year. The Bucks, I'm very worried is going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo and and the rest. I think Miles Turner will be good. I think it'll help Giannis not having to play. Kind of like I think they're trying to replicate what they did with Brook Lopez and Giannis when the Bucks won the title a few years back. Um, I don't know if it'll work out the same way. But one can only hope. I don't think they have the guard play this year. They're going to be hoping a lot of guys can play and take massive leaps forward if you're the Bucks, and I don't know if that's a good thing to hope on. Giannis is still going to be good enough to get you into the play-in at minimum, maybe a little bit above in a weaker Eastern Conference, but not by much. The Bulls, I have finishing right where they normally are. I think they have some interesting pieces. I think the Josh Giddey extension is interesting. Um, I think this Bulls team will continue to be elite offensively, especially if they keep the pace up. Looking at guys like Kobe White, looking at guys like the man I just mentioned, Josh Giddey, et cetera, et cetera. I think they have a promising young player in Matas Buelzelis, and I think he is going to help them offensively. But a little bit worried about them defensively, and I still don't think they have quite enough elite play at certain positions to do anything serious. But I think this Bulls team will continue to be fun, high flying, and high scoring, and continue to be the Bulls team that they have the last couple of seasons. And then the Pacers went to the NBA Finals last year, where they go to Game 7, and Tyrese Halliburton tears his Achilles. I don't. It's pretty much already confirmed that he's not going to play this season. Good move for the Pacers. Don't rush your franchise player back. And the Pacers still have some good players that I think are going to benefit from more playing time. But they also lost Miles Turner, who's a huge piece down low for them. I'll be interested to see with some of the young guns getting playing time down low, if they can grow into that role. You have somebody like Benedict Mathurin, I think, could have a fantastic year subbing in for Tyrese Halliburton. But I think that between injuries and free agency, they've lost too much. And honestly, for the Pacers, do you want to compete with that Halliburton? Why not use this opportunity to give people playing time and see what you have at the deeper end of your bench on some of your cheaper contracts? And is it the worst thing in the world if you end up with a good draft pick that can get you a potential number 2 player next to Tyrese Halliburton to continue to build your franchise around? I don't think so. I think the Pacers will still be more competitive than people realize, but without their franchise player, they are obviously not the same team, which is why I have the Pacers down there, although I wouldn't be shocked if they do get to 42, 43 wins this season, because I do think they still have enough talent left over on that roster. Let's get into the Western Conference with the Pacific Division. Last year, the Lakers and Clippers both at 50 wins, tied at first and second. Both of those teams look pretty different this year. Warriors 2 games back with 48 wins. Kings at 40 wins, Suns at 36. A failed season for the Suns last year, and they have kind of blown it up. Lakers, obviously, the new look, LeBron James, Luka Doncic. Clippers, very new look. Really, really changing their team around. They're kind of a retirement home this year, but one that might be successful. Warriors, I really like the addition of Jimmy Butler. They have some old heads, but I think they have a nice mix of younger players. I think the Warriors could be a dangerous team. And the Kings, I think, are the same Kings teams that people are used to from the last couple seasons. So let's get into it. I think the Warriors win this division and are competing for a top 4 seed. I think the Clippers are kind of in the same boat. I really, really think that Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green keep this team around. I think they know that they're running out of time if for Butler winning a championship, for Green and Curry winning another championship. I think the Warriors look at this season as potentially the last opportunity to do so with so many young players around the league getting good. Not that they don't have any on their own team. It's just that, there's a difference between the young players the Warriors have and some of these other teams, especially in the Western Conference. I think the Warriors take advantage. Maybe last dance-ish, maybe not quite the last dance, but kind of close to it. And I think they make a run this season. The Clippers, the old person's retirement home, they got a lot of guys that have trouble staying on the court, but when they're on the court, do a lot of good. A lot of injury-prone, good veterans, but when they're healthy, I think this could be successful. I think for the Clippers, it's going to be key. Obviously, health. They're going to rest a lot of guys, but also how can they mentor the young players? How can they add in the young players to this group? I think the longer the season goes, the clearer that becomes, and I think the Clippers could be dangerous come playoff time. The Lakers, I think, are in a dangerous position. They're a little bit better down low. They're going to have to hope DeAndre Ayton plays well. Obviously, you're headlined by Luka Doncic and LeBron James, but LeBron James is 40 years old, guys. He's not starting the season healthy. That's going to make it hard. If LeBron has trouble staying healthy, this Lakers team could be in trouble. Luka can only do so much, and Luka hasn't been healthy the last couple seasons either. So I'll be very interested to see what happens in LA. I don't think they have that much depth. I think when they're healthy, they're good. And that could get them in trouble. I wouldn't be shocked to see them push 50 wins if they stay healthy most of the year. Granted, they're already not starting healthy. But if you're the Lakers and players start getting hurt, you may find yourself closer to the play-in or out of the play-in than in the playoffs. The Kings, I think, are a play-in team again. I'm a little bit worried about them defensively in some ways. Already have some guys with injuries, but then guys like DeMar DeRozan, are usually pretty healthy, going to play games for you. Can this Kings team get enough stops? Can they stay healthy enough? I still think while they have some all-star caliber players, some good players, I still think they lack a true franchise, bona fide superstar player. And I think if to win a championship, you need at least one. I think the Kings will be good enough to stay around 500, but not much else. And the Suns kind of blowing it up. They still have Devin Booker, but not much outside of that. What happens with the Suns this year? I think they take a step back and maybe it's time to build for the future, because going all out for superstars clearly was not the right move for them. The Southwest Division in the West, maybe the biggest surprise team from last year, the Houston Rockets, finishing first with 52 wins. The Grizzlies in second with 48. Getting John Morant back most of the last year has probably helped for the Grizzlies. Rockets obviously adding Kevin Durant to a 50-win team. The Dallas Mavericks, obviously trading Luka Doncic, but then getting Cooper Flagg, one of the most heralded recent prospects to come into the draft, somehow ending up with the number 1 overall pick. Was there a grand scheme there? Maybe there was. I don't know. The Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama, let's hope he stays healthy because he has a chance to be a special player. If so, obviously had some serious health issues towards the end of last year. And the Pelicans, without Zion last year, finished with 21 wins. Got a good draft pick, and now they have Zion Williamson back and supposedly healthy. The Rockets, I know it's crazy. I'm saying they're going to stay at 52 wins with adding Kevin Durant. I think there's going to be certain aspects of their season last year that can't be replicated. They already have an injury to Fred VanVleet, so I'm a little bit worried about playmaking for the Rockets this season. They did change the makeup of that team. I think Kevin Durant is always going to be able to score no matter how old he is. What else can he add to this team, and can this team still function? I think that the Rockets also can start a very tall lineup that is sure to give other teams matchup fits, and I think they're still going to be good. Hence the 52 wins, which is one of the highest marks you will see um, in this episode of the teams I believe to be there. It's actually the highest total in the Western Conference so far. The Spurs, I think this is finally the year they put it all together. I love De'Aaron Fox. I love the pickup for them. What he does this year, to be determined, obviously. Dylan Harper, I like. I think Stephon Castle continues to take a step forward. And Victor Wembanyama, I think this is going to be the first year we see him being mostly healthy, playing most of the games, and just that alone for the Spurs will be enough. I think you start to see the Spurs, even with a new head coach, continue to break out and have a good season, stay out of the play-in even. This Mavericks team is interesting to me because I see a world when they end up right back in the lottery. Kyrie Irving coming back halfway through the year should be a big boost to them. Anthony Davis, I think him being able to play his natural four will be helpful. You know, the Mavericks have already have two guys that can play center, and I think Anthony Davis would rather play the four. I think that'll be helpful. Cooper Flag, right? Supposed to be a ready to go guy into the NBA, and with his level of prospect, how much can he add to this Mavericks team? Can Klay Thompson shoot? Plenty of pieces left over on this Mavericks team. Can the young Cooper Flag turn them into a playoff team year one? I think they have a real chance at least the play-in. It's going to come down to how healthy do some of the more injury-riddled vets stay and how much the supporting cast stays healthy. I think they'll be healthy enough for the Mavericks to have a real shot at least the play-in. Grizzlies, I think, take a step back this year. I think losing Desmond Bane is going to hurt more offensively than people realize. John Morant has been able to stay on the court for a variety of reasons. He's going to need to do that this season. Yes, they have Jaren Jackson. I'll be interested to see what Zach Edey does after a decent rookie year. But this Grizzlies team, I think other teams got better around them. And I think that they're kind of ready for maybe a little bit of a reset and to see if John Morant can be the guy he was a few years ago. And just to figure out the direction of the franchise in a sense. And then the Pelicans, I think, are better. I still don't think they're great. Derek Queen, I kind of like as a prospect, but the Pelicans already had a player with similar strengths and similar deficiencies as Derek Queen and Zion Williamson, and it's going to be hard to play them both at the same time, at least on paper. Maybe the Pelicans might know more than I do, obviously, in the room. But I don't know how well those two will play together. They're both undersized centers with shooting limitations. Can Zion stay healthy for a whole year? The Pelicans role players have a lot of injury concerns the last couple of years. What do the Pelicans look like? I think they're better, but I don't think they're good enough in a loaded Western Conference to make a real playoff run. And the final division in the NBA, final division in the Western Conference, the Northwest Division, home of the NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder. 68-14 last year, an incredible record, one of the best records of all time. They had the MVP, even though I'll go ahead and let you guys know I don't. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, incredible player. I don't know if he necessarily deserved MVP, but the MVP, I also think, is a narrative award and it's a definition award. Everybody has a different definition of the MVP, and you're not going to give it to the same person 5-6 years in a row, even if they deserve it. All the greats have had that problem. I digress. Thunder still have one of the top players in the NBA. That's how I'll phrase it. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off of an NBA championship season. And this offseason, they spent money keeping that team together, it was you get a car, you get a car. It was Oprah Winfrey, but it was with contracts. You get a contract, you get a contract, handing it out to some of their young players that look to be future faces and current faces of the franchise. This Thunder team is still going to be very, very good. I have them finishing with the best record in the NBA yet again. Nuggets, 50 wins last year. I think they got better. I really think this front office did some intelligent things to help build this team around Jokic. I really, really like the addition of a player like Cam Johnson to this roster. They got Bruce Brown back when they won the title. He was a big piece off the bench. Jonas Valanciunas, I think, is a better piece than people realize. For the Nuggets, can they, for the first time in a long time, Can they just be even when Jokic is off the court? If that's so, they're going to be a dangerous team. I think this team's going to be better with, or going to be better than they have been in the last couple of years without Nikola Jokic on the floor. I think this Nuggets team is going to be really good and maybe better than people think. And I think Jokic is going to continue to be himself. I'm going to give this Nuggets team 56 wins, good enough for one of the best records in the NBA. Timberwolves, I think, are about the same as last year. I still think Anthony Edwards is going to continue in his development. I'm a little bit worried for them at the point guard playmaking kind of position and roles. But I'm sure they will figure it out as the year goes on. Maybe that is the next step of Anthony Edwards' development. But this Timberwolves team should still be good enough for the playoffs. This Blazers team, very interesting. They were very, very good defensively post All-Star break. They went on a run where they were playing absolutely insane with a long winning streak. I think that there's some reason to believe that they could be one of the surprise teams of this season and they have a real shot, in my opinion, at making the play-in game. 36 wins last year. They were just outside of it. I think they have the ability to get to 40 this year. Utah Jazz finished with 17 wins last year. They're clearly blowing it up and rebuilding it. If you didn't know it going into last year, you know now. How can their young guys develop going forward, and what position can they get in the draft lottery? I've already talked about some of these teams, but the Thunder essentially have all of their team back. What a great rebuild it's been for the Thunder. I think they're going to continue to be the best team in the NBA. I've talked about the Nuggets. I think the Thunder Nuggets probably could be in a race for the best record in the NBA all year. Timberwolves at 46 and 36. Again, I think Anthony Edwards is going to have to continue to show he can carry a team. They still have some great bigs, some great wing players. I'm just worried about the guard position outside of Anthony Edwards, really. Mike Conley is getting old, and I think his play is starting to decline because of it. The Blazers, you heard me. I think they have a legit chance to surprise people this year. They've been a great defensive team. They were at the second half of last year when they finished so strong. They got rid of Ayton, which I think is going to hurt them offensively, which is where they're already struggling. But I'm very interested to see what somebody like Donovan Clingan is supposed to start for them this year, what he can do. Everybody loves Yang Hansen, so they already have Robert Williams. That's a good center rotation. Obviously, Damian Lillard won't be playing for him this year. He's back in Portland. He would be a nice offensive addition to help a team that struggles offensively. The Blazers, though, kind of doubled down on their defensive metrics and picked up a Drew Holiday. I think most of the season for the Blazers is going to come down to the development of Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. They're supposed to be your two guys of the future moving forward. They obviously gave Shaedon Sharpe an extension. They gave Toumani Camara an extension, a great two-way 3-and-D player, can do a little bit of everything. I think this Blazers team has a chance to be really, really good defensively. And if Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe take the steps forward they're supposed to offensively, I think this will be a good team that will make the play-in. One other name, Denny Avdia, a former Wizards lottery pick, goes to the Blazers, has a nice contract for them. He had a great end to the year. Can he continue to develop into a good two-way player? This Blazers team has a lot of interesting pieces. I think that the Blazers have real shot at the play-in, and as I've said continuously now. But this Blazers team might be my surprise team of the year. And the Jazz, as I talked about for them last year, I wouldn't expect too much from this year. They're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA. Now, let's go back to the Eastern Conference. If you were to take all of the standings I gave you, this is what it would equal out to. And it's not an exact science. It's so hard to pick an exact record for teams after 82 games. This is kind of where the records are really more, I see them falling in that region by 2 or 3 games for everybody. But let's just pretend for a minute it's exactly what I say happens. These teams in purple will get the top 6 seeds, avoid the play-in. The teams in red would make up the play-in, and the teams in black would automatically go to the lottery. What an interesting group this is. So you can see my top 6 seeds there. And then in the play-in, I think the Celtics and Hawks would be mighty interesting. Give me the Celtics to beat the Hawks, especially if the rumors that Tatum can come back early are true. I don't know how true they are or not. I haven't seen the national media talk about it a whole lot, and there's some cities I'm better with others about who is a reliable source in the local scene. I don't really have that for Boston. I still think the Celtics could beat the Hawks, quite honestly. So, go ahead and give me the Celtics. And then I think the Bulls and Raptors is going to be an electric game. Give me the Bulls. They seem to love the play-in, at least the first game sometimes. As long as they're not playing the Heat, I think they're good in the play-in. And then that would be Bulls versus Hawks. Again, two teams that are always, it feels like, in the play-in. And just for kicks and giggles, I think the Bulls have a good offensive stretch and get themselves into the play-in, meaning the Celtics become the 7 seed, the Bulls become the 8 seed, and the Hawks and Raptors move to the draft lottery. Doing the same thing with the Western Conference. It's the same colors. It all means the same thing. Um, I know I did all that talking and gassing up of the Blazers. I said I think they fall around the play-in. If my records come 100% true, which again I said won't happen, I usually would say give or take 2 to 4 games on them, which would put the Blazers right behind the Kings and out of the play-in, giving the 4 play-in teams of somehow the Timberwolves, which feels almost disrespectful, but it's really a credit to how loaded I think the Western Conference is. The Lakers in 8, the Mavericks in 9, and the Kings at 10. I have the Timberwolves beating the Lakers. I do think that the Timberwolves are kind of a top 7 with a little gap to the Lakers, maybe, especially if the Lakers do have injury problems. Um, I don't even know if I think the Timberwolves actually fall in the play-in. It's just kind of how these predictions turned out when I was looking at it. I feel like they should be better than that. I digress. Mavericks and Kings, I don't think it really matters because I don't think the Lakers would lose anyway. And I think the Lakers get in as the 8 seed. And meaning the Mavericks and Kings go to the draft lottery. This is the theoretical playoff bracket. Remember, I said it's not an exact science, but this is, if it was, this is how I would have it playing out. I know I spoiled everything right off the bat, so you can already see everybody I have winning these playoff series. But how about you stick around for a minute and let me give you some reasoning. As always, I'm going to start with the Eastern Conference. The Knicks and the Bulls, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It normally play in, especially in the East, normally playing teams don't put up too much of a fight in that first round. The Knicks, give me the Knicks to win that series. I think the Magic and the Bucks, this has potential for 7 games. I think the Magic have more depth and have better pieces around them, but I think the Bucks have the best individual player, and I think Giannis drags his team through the first round one more time, and that's if he's not traded at the trade deadline, because I do think that is a very legitimate and potentially real thing that happens. Down here, the Pistons would be the 3 seed against the 6 seed Sixers. Fun series, especially if the Sixers are healthy and playing to the top of their ability. But you know what? Give me the young guys to the Pistons. They played well in the playoffs last year. They got their first taste. I think they come back ready to win. And then the Cavaliers drawing the Celtics. Obviously, it'll depend on who's healthy for the Celtics, but I think the Cavaliers come through this one. They learned from last year's playoffs and beat the Celtics. The Knicks and Bucks, I think the Knicks will just have the Bucks outgunned. Not much Giannis can do by himself. Give me the Knicks past the Bucks. Cavaliers versus the Pistons. Fun series. I think it goes 6. I think the Pistons put up a hard fight, but they made it around further than they did last year. That's nothing to be mad about. Give me the Cavaliers. Knicks versus Cavs, two teams that have been good the last couple of years, but can't seem to make it through the Pacers and the Celtics the last couple of seasons, at least when those teams are healthy, because those are kind of the teams that have been making it to the NBA post or to the NBA finals. But I think this year the East is wide open, especially with so many injuries already. And I think this is the year the Knicks finally do it. I think the Knicks take down Cleveland and a thrilling Eastern Conference Finals, and the Knicks finally find their way to an NBA Finals. Let's look over at the Western Conference, the Thunder versus the Lakers, in a very interesting 1 versus 8 match. I just think the Lakers are outgunned. The future is now old man at LeBron James, I guess, and the Lakers lose and Thunder go on quite easily. Warriors and Clippers in a battle of old head teams. I think the Warriors will be a little bit more ready to go. I trust them to be healthier at this point in the season. I think the Warriors might be one of the best teams in the NBA, and they're not afraid to make moves at the trade deadline. Give me the Warriors to get by the Clippers with some typical playoff Jimmy Buckets moments. Spurs and Rockets, two of the three Texas teams battling it out here. I think the Rockets are very good, but I do think the Spurs are one of the few teams that aren't going to be too terrified of a height matchup with the Rockets. The Rockets are going to have height advantage, I think, over everybody this year. But I think the Spurs will be able to get by the Rockets. Victor Wembanyama making his first playoffs and getting his first playoff series win, all in the same season. And then, man, Nuggets and Timberwolves in the playoffs. How exciting has that been in the recent history when they face off? I think the Nuggets are just better this year. I think the Nuggets are going to be a better, more well-rounded team, and I don't think the Timberwolves will have just quite enough. I do think there's matchups that I like with the Timberwolves in the first round. The Nuggets are not necessarily one. Give me the Nuggets. Nuggets versus Spurs. Congratulations to the Spurs. I think it would be a successful season to make the second round of the playoffs. I don't think they have enough to take down the Nuggets. I think this Nuggets team is really well built. I think that they're one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the NBA this season, and I don't think the Spurs are on that level. Give me the Nuggets. And Warriors Thunder. I think the Thunder are probably going to be the best team in the NBA again, but there's just something about this Warriors team to me. I really, really do think they're going to be good. I think the Warriors find a way to get by Oklahoma City this season. And I think the Warriors could have made a run to the finals if they didn't have injury problems last playoff season. I think they figure it out this season and they get by the Thunder. Setting up my two of my favorite teams coming into this year, the Warriors and the Nuggets. I really like both of them. I think they have solid veterans with some good young pieces. I think they're very well put together. I think the Warriors have the experience, and I think they have the better head coaching than the Nuggets. I think that is a knockdown, drag-out 7-game series with the Warriors advancing to play the Knicks. And I just give me the Warriors over the Knicks. I honestly don't know if I love this finals matchup. I think the Nuggets would be making it would be interesting. I think the East, there's no dominant team, and I can't tell who I think will be that dominant team. I just think the Knicks are one of the more likely teams. And in the West, I think there's 3 clear-cut best teams in the Thunder, Warriors, and Nuggets. And so, I can't tell from both ways. I wouldn't be shocked if neither of these teams make the finals. But right now, this is what my vibes are telling me. I think whoever wins that Warriors-Nuggets series would beat the Knicks. And just because right now I have the Warriors doing it, give me the Warriors to be NBA champions yet again, officially putting Steph Curry in best point guard of all time conversations if he's not already, and giving Jimmy Butler a ring that I believe he so desperately deserves. You thought this episode was over. I just talked about the NBA Finals. Incorrect. I have a start of season power rankings for everybody, as well as award races. I do want to say, just because I have somebody with a good record does not necessarily mean they're going to start my power rankings very high. I factor in last season. I factor in, how good I think the team is right now. Sometimes with my predictions, I say, how good do I think a team will be at the end of the year? Those are 2 different conversations. So how good I think a team is now compared to how good I think they're going to be by the end of the season after the trade deadline, potential injuries, depth, all that stuff. 2 different conversations. These power rankings are just for the start of the season, and I'm giving you my best 16, and then the next 14 as 16 teams make the playoffs. Nobody but the Thunder can be number 1 for obvious reasons. I still think they're kings until proven otherwise. Give me the Nuggets to be number 2. Cavs number 3. I think the Cavs and Knicks are clearing away fighting for the best team in the Eastern Conference and 2 of the best teams in the NBA. Warriors, my NBA champions, I'm starting them off at 5. I think they looked really good when they were healthy with Jimmy Butler last year in that newly kind of made team. Rockets, I think, were good last year. They added KD. Yes, they had to get rid of some guys, but I think they're going to be okay. Again, love that height advantage they have. Give me the Rockets. I think the Clippers start off high on this list, but I think eventually injuries and age will catch up with them unless they are very smart about minutes and rest. Pistons, they deserve to be high on this list. I'm going to give them number 8 based off of last year and the fact that some of the teams in front of that I would have put in front of them, I think, got worse. Timberwolves in a similar boat. Magic, I really, I'm still scared to say they're going to be really good or much better than they were last year. I do think they way overpaid for Desmond Bane, but I do think he gives them shooting and some more offensive versatility, which is the 2 things they needed the most. especially if they continue to be an elite defensive team. I think the Magic have potential. The Bucks, again, I think this season could be the last one. Giannis is in Milwaukee. In fact, I think if the season goes south early and fast and they don't think they can get out of it, they might be smart to just trade Giannis Antetokounmpo, which could completely shake this everything up. Lakers starting off 12, but they need LeBron to get healthy and then stay healthy. They need Luka to stay healthy. They don't have that much depth. Hawks, I'm starting them off in 13th. I think they deserve it. I think they are a good team. I think they're coming off of a year where a lot of those young guys showed up. I think that they continue to get better. Spurs starting at 14. Um, Again, Spurs are kind of similar to some of these young and up and coming teams. I'm going to give them 14. I think that they're a top team, a team that fluctuates around the top half of the league all year. Celtics with Tatum, probably definitely top 10, probably top 5. Without Tatum and without a big that I trust and view as reliable, they're 15. 76ers are 16, but could be quick risers if the young guns show up and Joel Embiid stays relatively healthy. Mavericks at 17, another team that needs to get healthy, and another team that needs their rookie to get off to a fast start. Kings are kind of perennially, to me, in this 14 to 18 range, the 15 to 20 range. I'm going to leave them there because I think they're the same team they have been. Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton would be top 10. Without him, I'm giving them 19, and they lost Miles Turner. Grizzlies, I think, could rise up this list, but I still think they're trying to figure out what all they have at certain positions and if Ja Morant can continue to be a franchise player or not. Raptors, kind of a weird team to read to me. They have talent at a lot of different positions. Will it come together? Will it be enough talent? I don't know. Heat, I think, are close to trading out of Bio, maybe even Hero. I think the Heat are close to a rebuild, even though that's not something they like to do. Bulls are the same old Bulls. They love to hover around the play-in. Blazers, I think, as I've said, it could be this year's young up and coming team, but until they prove it consistently on the court, I don't think I can have them any higher than I currently do at 24. Pelicans at 25. How much better does a healthy Zion Williamson make this team? Enough to get him above what I think is very clearly going to be the bottom 5 teams in the NBA. I think there's a clear bottom 5 that should finish with the 5 worst records, and then there's that group of play-in / lottery candidates that mostly the teams I just discussed. But that bottom 5 that starts after the Pelicans, Hornets at 26, I think they're going to be a little bit better, not a whole lot. Suns at 27, they're keeping Devin Booker, but I think they're trying to have an expedited rebuild. We'll see if it works. Wizards, Jazz, and Nets, I think, are all in the same boat. Yes, they have young players they're trying to develop, but they're not ready to compete, and they're ready to continue to get high draft picks. And last thing I have for you guys, I have my picks for awards. Defensive Player of the Year, probably the most chalk thing ever, but if healthy, ain't no way to me Victor Wembanyama doesn't win it. Such a crazy athlete. He's literally built in a lab to play basketball. He's going to block shots. He's going to get He's going to tip passes. He's going to get steals. He's going to rebound well. Victor Wembanyama, I think, is the favorite. And Evan Mobley, I still somehow think he's not appreciated enough for his ability to guard the paint and the perimeter as a big. And I think he needs more love. Give me Evan Mobley for second place. Rookie of the Year, this is also kind of chalk. I think Cooper Flagg finishes first. And give me VJ Edgecombe, the 3rd overall pick for the Sixers. I think he can have a really good year this year and really complement what they already have on the roster well. Give me him finishing second. Most improved player. I'm high on the Blazers, so I figured why not jump all the way into the deep end. Scoot Henderson for most improved player. He was the number 3 pick in the draft, was far and away supposed to be the best guard prospect. Has shown some really big flashes. I don't know if he's going to start with Portland, but I think eventually he's going to earn minutes, and I think this is the year that he breaks out offensively, partially because Portland needs him to, and partially because sometimes I think those young guys that came through the G League and didn't play college ball, sometimes it takes them a minute. This is Scoot Henderson's 3rd year. I think he's going to get it, and I think definitely by the second half, he is showing out the player that he was supposed to be. And then I think Benedict Mathurin with extra playing time, extra playing time for Benedict Mathurin is what I'm trying to say. With Tyrese Halliburton out, I think that gives him more shots, gives him more minutes, and I think he takes advantage and has a good season, putting him in most improved running. I do think the most improved player is one of the two awards that are the most wide open and you don't know who's going to win. And the second one is Sixth Man of the Year. I went with somebody who's won it before and is on a different team, Jordan Clarkson. I think he could be a secret piece for the Knicks that not a lot of people are talking about, giving that bench depth, giving some points and minutes off the bench. And then Bruce Brown going back to the Nuggets, I really, really like as well. I think Bruce Brown is going to be one of the best six men all year, just like he was when Denver won the title. Coach of the year, I think it's either going to go to the new head coach over there with San Antonio, or I think, again, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the Blazers with Chauncey Billups being in second place this year. If they do what I think they're going to do, Billups should be in the running. Same thing with the Spurs and Johnson. Third team All-NBA, give me Cade Cunningham, building on that successful year last year. Karl Anthony Towns continuing to play well with the Knicks. Jimmy Butler, I think, plays enough games to get it. And then a pair of young guns, Ampado Banchero and Victor Wembanyama, round out third team, having the best seasons of their young careers. Second team, Donovan Mitchell. I think, again, you know what he can do from a scoring point of view. He stays pretty healthy. His team is good. Give me Donovan Mitchell, second team. Anthony Edwards, a budding star in this league. I think he makes second team. Kevin Durant in a different different team. Still think he's going to be same old Kevin Durant, efficient, ethical buckets. Jalen Brunson, don't think quite makes first team this year. I think he goes second team, leading a very good Knicks squad. And I think Embiid stays healthy long enough this year and ends up on second team, leading a resurgent 76er squad from a year ago. And then first team NBA, kind of the names of names here. I think Luka stays healthy, plays at least 65 games, plays well. First team. Jokic, obviously, that's one of the most sure things in the NBA is Nikola Jokic for first team. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think he's an MVP candidate this year with some of the changes that have happened on his team. I think he plays a lot of games. I think he makes first team NBA. SGA, last year's MVP, should be on the list this year. And then, again, a bit high on the Warriors, double down on it. I think Steph Curry has another great year, has another year where he makes at least 300 threes, and I think his team stays near the top of the standings. And then for MVP, give me Nikola Jokic. This team is even better. He's won a lot of MVPs as of late. He arguably should have won it last year. I think there's a little bit of voter fatigue, but they just gave it to SGA. I think this Nuggets team is better. I think they close the gap to the Thunder, and because of that, I think Jokic wins. And I think Curry has a much better year than people realize. Maybe he's still capable of at the age of 38. I think he's going to hit a boatload of threes. I think he's going to score a lot of points. And I think the Warriors getting better around him is going to give them a better record, putting Curry second in the race. That's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you watch the NBA tip-off on Tuesday. A lot of games also starting on Wednesday for the rest of the league. Exciting time of the year. We are officially in the sports eclipse with all four major U.S. sports going on at the same time. Everybody make sure you enjoy that. Let me know in the comments below who you think is going to win the NBA title this year. Let me know who you think is going to win the MVP and anything else that you guys think I did wrong. Put it in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe as well. Follow me on X. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your days or weeks in your lives for listening. Stay safe in this crazy world out there. Peace out.